Morning, everyone. This is Carrie and my kid's chopstick. And this is my channel, Testimonies and Conversation. And it's a work in progress. It's not what I want it to be, but um, and so today I want to start a series. I've really there's this burden that I've got in my head. Okay, and honestly, it's about the the fall of the United States of America. Okay, and I know that um so you so I support Donald Trump. um I would rather, let's say, I support him more than I would support any of the Democratic nominees. Sorry, that's, thank God Kamala's not here. Biden, well, he never was here. um and your other candidates, um I voted independent a couple times. This last time I said, I don't want to leave that to risk, so I voted Trump, right? So you may label me as a huge Trump supporter, but you would be wrong, okay? I'm a supporter because he he looks out for Christians, okay? He does, he could be better, he could be worse, and so um, that's where my support lies. But if you're if you consider yourself a true Christian, you have to look at a person such as Donald Trump and say, okay, he's my leader of the country I live in, and he's the leader for now. Okay, he's the leader for now. Okay, and so if you there's a couple people. I really like Jonathan Kahn and um, I forget his name, um, Lost Lion, Shuttlesworth, Tiff Shuttlesworth, and you know they talk about Bible prophecy, and they say that at at some point, basically everybody's going to turn their back on Israel. Israel's going to stand alone, and the U.S. has been an ally since the beginning, and there's two. Tiff has his belief that um, after the rapture comes, and the godliness is taken from the United States, that um, the support there, the leadership, and all of that, they're just going to walk away from Israel because nobody is fearing Israel, fearing God. Okay, and Jonathan Kahn, his line is that somehow America, and if it's Donald Trump, that they'll turn their back on Israel. And it could be, um, and they're not saying, they're not laying out a diagram of how it happens, but they're saying that this is, they're saying that it's getting a lot closer to happening than you think. And so, and I got to be honest with you, I think I can connect some of these dots now. I don't understand why some of these thoughts that I have came into play, but honestly, it's just like a picture getting a little clearer. Okay, and when let's say this, um, I'm listening to this guy. Forgive me, I never pay attention. You don't show his name that much, but it's a Lionheart Church, right? And it's this black minister, and um, he talks, and when you listen, I listen for false things, that red flags that go, don't listen to this guy. And so I'm listening, and I've had a good experience listening to him. And so especially when ministers say you need to read your Bible more. That's a good that's a good practice, right? I can. They're saying, hey guys, I'm telling you what God's put on me, but God's also telling me that you need to put this on you. So therefore, you should always, um, people tell you, hey guys, it's in the Bible, and we'll try and help you understand it all, but you need to believe the Word of God. If as a Christian you believe that's the Word of God, and um, if you've never really understood how the Bible was written, you should listen. There's some good people out there, and I'll try and maybe grab some of that one day if my brain goes back to it. But he was talking about, as you how many chapters it was like 8 chapters a day, and you can read the Bible in a year, and 12 or yeah, it was breaking it down, and it was like, wow, that's a lot of Bible reading in a talking about you can read the Bible in 3 months. But then he said this statement here, and it kind of slaps you around. It kind of slaps you, and it says, how can you say that you are a Christian? And he said it in just a bold, cocky manner, and I ain't gonna say an offensive manner, but he was trying to offend you in a way. Like, hey, how can you call yourself a Christian and yet you cannot say you've read the Bible entirely through? Now, I believe I have over my life, but does um you know does it equate to anything to say, oh, I've read the Bible through? If God says you read the Bible through, and I go, well, yeah, I believe I have. Yeah, you're 57 years old, and reading a book a year doesn't count for anything, right? That's like going to church twice a year, and Christmas and Easter or whatever, Mother's Day, when everybody's shuffling out the door, and you know you're but and you're all ameny, right? Amen, amen, and everybody goes quiet. He's talking about them, not me. And so, I have, especially, I gotta say, Charlie Kirk's death has shaken me to the core, and that's not a bad thing. Um, you know, um, am I putting emphasis on the right things in my life? Um, well, my phone rang. This is very weird.
Body goes in the ground, his soul and spirit go to be with Jesus. And so it's true that when a person dies, their body goes in the ground. But
Um, this somehow the Facebook thing has been going a little freaky on me lately. It'll just turn on even though the phone's quote shut off. So I've been spending, I don't, I'll be honest, I don't sit down and read the Bible every day. And, you'll get up and you get off, you know, I don't know if it's ADD or ADHD, but I can go left and right, and you don't need, So when I sit down, I'll try and sit down once or twice a week and read for a good 30-40 minutes, sometimes an hour. Sometimes it's more than that. And I can see that the truth of saying that, the more time that you spend reading the Bible, the more your mind opens to understanding it. And so I've been, I've been doing that, because I'll be honest with you, I've been one of them on the fence Christians here, and it, it's just you let some things that will drag you to the other side. They drag you, and if you're not careful, you don't really pay attention. You're like, oh no, it's not that bad, and next thing you know, those things are all up in your head, and those demons that you've let in through your eyes and ears, you can't get rid of, and you're fighting them, and the more that you spend the time in your Bible, there you go. But I didn't have a revelation. Okay, I had a revelation, but I don't know if it's a revelation. It's just a picture in my head, um, of one night, and it's the picture should be after the rapture. Okay, and I kid you not. I know that we talk about Mark Zuckerberg and Facebook and this online media stuff and how they block stuff, and we know all these things, right? We know all these things that a lot of some Christian stuff, they block and they unblock. It's just really weird. But one night I had this all these video. I woke up like 3 in the morning, and or I don't know. I was up late. I think it was up late. Now I don't know. I was up till like 2 o'clock because there's been some mornings that I've just woken up early, and so I was all these videos lined up, and I'd been listening. Um, Jonathan Kahn was explaining some things about um, how to say this. Um, he was defining, some of the scriptures in the Bible, because you have Hebrew words, and so he's explaining, how the Bible prophecy, the end times, and I'm going, and I'm just scrolling through some things, and they lined up and they talked about, how it is with Islam, and how Islam was taking over the world, many many years ago, and it was the Europeans who finally got they started pushing back, fighting, and drove them out, and that's where they cut, so what kind of where they ended up today, and you're watching the protest in England, and if you really start paying attention to the other countries that are having issues, they've let in all these refugees and illegal immigrants and legal immigrants, and these videos, they just come in this order. I gotta tell you, I could never. I just can't say that it was random. I just can't say it was random. I'll swear on my kid's grave, on my mother. Well, my kids are alive, thank God. But I'd swear on my kid's life, my mother's grave, my life, that God lined these videos up for me to see, and He put them in an order that made sense. And that is just the weirdest thing, is that it all made sense, and it wasn't what the thoughts of what I'm having now. It was the first thought of, wait, what's life? What's the next part of America? What's the next? Because we're a free country until we're not. Okay, and so, um, and there was one part in there, and I obviously, because this is from well over a couple hundred years ago and more. Um, and what they described was, it was these countries were under Islamic rule, so they would freely come and take people and cut their heads off, right? And then they would, for those that were not, excuse me, sorry, coffee must be from God, because boy, this the drink of coffee will fix about anything except for a hot summer day, right? But anyway, the Muslim the excuse me, the Jews would have to wear the star on their clothing, and the Christians would have, if you were not Jewish or Muslim, then you would have to wear a belt that identified you as non-Jew, non-Christian, non-Muslim. And it was just so, I don't know. I pictured these things because, when you see the if you ever take and study some World War II history about Germany, then you find out how things kind of got in Europe and around the world with the Jewish community. And then you go, wait a minute, World War II is not, we got video of the times during World War II, because at times that we have video. So, and it's hard to imagine that, they weren't out, in the 1600s, they weren't out with their cell phones. They were, you know, you could just only have pictures and the stories being told. And so now you sit here and you say, well, no, this is America. America would never ever let that happen because we're just this great southern country, and we all love everybody loved Jesus, right? And I live in the Bible Belt, and it's all hallelujahs and God bless you and God bless her soul and all that stuff, and it's not true, folks. It's not true. It's not true. The hatred out here is um, the racial hatred that's being bred. Um, and that's a whole nother thing. But just look at the end game. And I hate that phrase end game, but look at the end game. The end game coming. And I'm doing this video Sunday morning, so I'm gonna hopefully get this out here tonight. But the end game, the next phase in this is going to be Tuesday. And on Tuesday, we're looking at the mayor of Minneapolis. And forgive me, I'm not sure where Minneapolis stands population wise. We all know New York's number one, and it's number one in many aspects. I mean, the financial capital of the United States. There's so many things. And what is the significance if Mamdani wins this election? And by everything's got him ahead by 15 points in the polls, right? And as you've got, forgive me, I know there's Cuomo and Swally, I want to say Swahili, I think it's Swally. And, they both come across as okay candidates. I mean, it's like, who do you really want? We don't want them, but it's who's left really, and that's sad sometimes. But what happens next? And you're hearing rumors of things, but what's going to happen next? And it's such a sad thing. Um, Hang on here. Let me pull up something here. Um, so when you um, hang on, I'm gonna have to cut. I'm gonna have to pause for a second here. I'm not. It's. I'm winging some of this. Um, Okay, guys. All right. So I'm gonna. All right, guys. Sorry, I had to. You know, I think we all get times when I'm not totally prepared, and I'm going to, as I do this, hopefully better. So Dearborn. I keep thinking Birmingham, but it's Dearborn, Michigan. Okay, and be told I was born up in Pontiac, and I run up to Michigan regularly. So for me, I have a lot of family up there, and um, this hits close to home, right? Okay, let's be honest with you. And so um, they have a Muslim mayor. I forget this guy's name, and I'm looking at the wrong thing here. So they have the Islamic Center of America in Dearborn, Michigan. Okay, um, and here you can see it's um, first Arab majority city in America. All right. Um, and this is for as an American, this is a sad day. And if you honestly, if you go in and type in Facebook, go into Facebook and type in Dearborn Mayor, they've had so much in court or in their meetings about, now they've got the call to prayer every morning at 5:30, waking everybody up. It's not allowed. It's not during quiet hour. It's not all this stuff. And um, it's your first sign of, well, it's the first big sign, but there's a lot of other issues beginning to boil. Just you're not in the kitchen, right? You're not in the kitchen to see that pot boil over. Texas, they're introducing legislature to stop Sharia law because, hey, that's what they've done in England now. So in England now, certain places, but they got Sharia law, and they take care of their own business, and you'll end up on the wrong end every time because you're not. But one thing that I want to start off by saying is, what people do not really think about is the the after effects. Um, and that well, hang on here. Why is this? Uh, all right. So one thing that I want to um, I'm not finding the picture of it, but the city of Dearborn, the basically all your major leaders have been appointed. They're appointed. I was looking this up. The mayor is Abdullah Hamad, and he's appointed his friends. Right? I mean, honestly, that has been happening for many years, um, and uh, and it's starting to unravel to the fact that um, all of his friends are Muslim. Okay, and so what it ends up as is, you know, they're, they're taking over, and they're not giving it back. They won't give back because instead of one of the things that should really come home to rest in your head is that while if you go to Muslim countries, it's just the appointed ruler, not the elected, but it's usually appointed, right, with rigged elections. But in so in Dearborn, this guy comes up and he's I think the mayor of Dearborn grew up here, so he speaks and it's like, oh no, he's one of us, you know even though he doesn't go to your church, he's not your friend. But he talks the talk, and he says, I'm friends of the I'm friends with all you people that are, out there somewhere. I'm your friend and I'm their friend and I'm everybody's friend. And so basically, as you're tricked into believing that, and you say, well, I'm going to vote because they're all Democrat. They're not Republican. They're Democrat. Okay. And so as hatred for Democrat grows, I'm with that. Right. Um, But what happens is all of your Muslims, all under Islam, they all vote the line. Okay, and the line is there's a Muslim candidate and they're voting for them. Okay, they're not voting for Donald Trump. They're. I mean, I understand you have a few out there, but people don't know them. They stay quiet. They don't want to um, buck the system, right? And so now what you have is when you take the percentage, and guess what? All the Muslims are going to vote, okay? Because guess what? If you haven't paid attention to the videos, the Death to America chants, maybe, I don't know. Um, oh, they don't really mean that. They don't want to actually blow up the country because they want to take over and rule it, and they want to blow you up, right? That's the bad part about this. And people don't understand that, so when you take the percent of people that live in a community, let's say you got 100,000 and let's say they're split 50-50, right? Well, but how are they going to actually vote? Okay? And so if you're going to get 100% of the Muslim community voting for their person, because we're America, we're gonna they can hold office because they have a green card, right? They're allowed to be here and run for office, and they love America. Yeah, maybe not. And so now, when you take the community, and let's say I'd have to look up the percent, but they've got a huge population in Dearborn, and um, they all vote Democrat. And then if they've got a few other people from the Democratic Party that's Christian, they won. And they've it's already evident because it's right there. It's right there. They won, right? They have this mayor. And I kid you not, almost word for word, there's a video out there of this guy in England, and he got arrested, or I think he was arrested for something, right? Because the first thing to go is the freedom of speech, and since the head of the chief of police is one of his friends, then he starts pushing his rule, and he makes it more friendly to for the other Muslims to join the police force. And so when something happens, you open the door and they're like, yeah, you posted something online that's anti-Semitic. Well, you have the right to say you don't like something, but until they say you don't. But people aren't. That should be going. Bells and whistles should be going off everywhere, and it's not. It's not getting in people's heads, right? That's the first thing. Is they talk about the when America falls this time. It's going to be. I mean, people have been preaching this rhetoric for 50 years or so that, hey, it's not that bad. It's not what you think. Communism's not that bad. You know, it is. And it is for a reason. It is for a reason. That's why, it's why we try to protect our freedom of speech, the right to bear arms. And so back to the story is the mayor in London is Islamic, is a Muslim, and the guy, he sat there, he says, I will celebrate the day you leave this city, and we'll throw a parade in your honor of you leaving, just as hatred as can be, but that's okay. And turn around, and the mayor of Dearborn, he did the same thing to a guy that came in and said, hey, why are we suddenly renaming our cities after Muslim terrorists? And how's that working out? Right? And he said the same exact thing. When you leave this city, I'm going to dance and I'm going to throw a parade because we don't need you here. And it's like all the phobias are coming back to I'd say to the white man, and that's who it is. That right now it's directed at the white man. All right, until they just flip it. And so what you have right now is it's people say, well, Mandami's going to win New York and he ain't going to be able to do everything that he wants. It's not about him doing everything that he wants. Okay, it's about what he can do, right? And that's what you you have to remember. you just because it's not what it seems, the and you might be happy, oh, it's not that way. Well, what damage, I'd say this, but our beloved uh President Barack Obama, they decided to open the floodgates, um, almost 20 years ago. Okay. And that is starting to gain traction now. And it's in the next 4 years, it is going to be unheralded. The and we'll talk about that later. But right now, I want to stick with the start of the fall, and it's already in place because, um, Dearborn has started, and it's out there for you to see, but you're not seeing it. That's the problem. You don't want to see it. You only want to be entertained by videos that go, oh, look at that, it's so cute, and oh, hey, oh, I love this singer, I love this rapper, and I love this watching my little video clips all day. You're not you're being dumbed down, and you haven't understood that. You haven't understood that at all. You haven't talked to your kids in days. You don't know anything about, you going to work, you got some money, but dude, you got the new iPhone, whatever, and you're just, yeah, you're giving those emojis out to people, and um, you're everybody's doing that little dance, and hey, we're doing the Macarena again. We're gonna bring it back, and you're not paying attention to the things that are happening in this country. Glenn Beck, you know, you may not like him, and he's got this really cool white goatee. I really like his goatees. He's got this mic. It's got GB on it. Dude, that mic is so sweet. But that's not the reason that I like him. He tells the truth. And he tells some hard, hard, hard truths. And you don't have to listen to him every day, but you should give him a little bit of time. And he'll and these other guys, but I'm coming at you with the fact that damage has already been done. It's just you just don't know it yet. You hear people driving down the road, and they hear like a gunshot or something. They don't even realize it, but they got shot. The car went through and hit them in the stomach, chest, whatever. And they didn't realize, they didn't feel nothing until 5, 10 minutes later. Well, we've already been shot, guys. Let me tell you, we have already been shot and we're bleeding and we're driving down the road and we're pulling up to a light that's 100 yards, and Google's telling you to go left at the light, and you're like, man, well, I feel kind of funny, what in the world? And then you're going to realize that you've been shot and you're bleeding. Oh no, wait a minute, I'm bleeding a lot and I'm too far from, am I going to make it to the hospital? Can they save me? That's where I hate to say this. That's where we're at. That's where we're already there. So, is this a 2 minute deal that before I even edit this video, America's fallen? No, it's not. And there, honestly, there's no hope for America. Okay, your hope for a future in America, you can kiss that goodbye. Okay, let me tell you something right now. Your hope in America is gone. Okay, so if you're like me, you're not going to retire in America. You will not retire. I mean, I'm 57. I should be eligible for my Social Security at 62, right? And of course, Social Security is going to fall under here in a couple of years. So that chance is long gone. It's long gone. Ain't happening. But really, your only chance is to be saved by the Lord Jesus Christ, right? That's your only hope. But the first thing that's going to happen is on election day, you have a this guy in Minnesota running, and you have Mandami. Now, the guy in Minnesota, I can't. No one. I mean, no one can explain this. This dude is weird. I mean, he is. Oh my God! You gotta hang on a second. Um, let me see this. Whoops! If I can spell right. Okay, guys. Let's see this here. Um, the Mamdani of the Midwest. Um, I'm sorry, but he just even looks too freaky to. Um, an affordable city, accountable to us. Yeah, let me tell you something. He actually looks more black than he does Muslim. All right. Um, meet Omar. So he's out there, he's looking like he fits in. I would. He's from Somalia, which there's a whole lot of them from Somalia. Um, uh, doesn't say, hey, oh, well, he does say he's Muslim, but um, there's a lot of Somalis up in Minnesota, and he's going to win. He's going to win, folks. Let me tell you something. This guy's going to win. I don't know the stats yet, and forgive me, I wasn't. This first one here is not exactly mapped out yet. I'm kind of winging this morning. The next one's I'll be more of a scripted video. But this is another. This is another failing coming to you, guys. It's coming to you. Um, And when, there's a lot of people that got millions and billions of dollars invested in New York, right? And Minneapolis. And so what they're doing right now is they're sitting around and they're looking at their business. They're looking at the business models that these people are talking about doing, taxing the rich. Hey guys, yeah, we're just going to tax I know you got this business, and I know you're successful and you drive nice cars, and you employ thousands and thousands of people, and there's never any trouble with you. Your businesses, you follow the rules, and just you've been a wonderful partner, but we're going to need you to pay more money now. Yeah, we don't care that. Yeah, yeah, no, it's not. But you can create another 500 jobs. We need to take them. We need to take the more of the money you got, and we're going to slowly just bleed you to death. And so these guys will eventually they're going to start looking at the countries, looking at um or excuse me, the other states, looking at moving to Texas, Florida, Tennessee, things like that, because and so right now everything's calm. You're not, let's face it, we don't hear about the meetings that go on. We don't hear about the meetings. We hear, as the public, we hear about the happenings. And honestly, the biggest guy here, Elon Musk. He said, "Nope, I'm out of California, buddy. I'm going to Texas. I'm actually going to buy property and build a town." Patrick Bet David, who I listened to, he up and took his whole company down to Miami. Right? He sold off some businesses, and then his media company is based out of Miami. Um, and they're not the only ones. And then you're talking about taxing a guy. There's a video, and this guy was breaking down the 2% that they want you to, the extra 2% that they want you to pay in New York. Okay, if you make $500,000 in New York, they want you to pay an extra 2%, right? Which you say, well, on $1 million, that's 20,000, so half million is $10,000. And this guy breaks it down. He shows that, yeah, in New York, state taxes 14%, or the city of New York, they whack you between state and city. You get 14% local tax. Now they want another 2%. And what you're not thinking of is a $10,000 tax. You've got to make like 14,000, 13, 14,000 to pay that tax, because it's an after tax cost. Well, it's what it costs you. You have to add in the total amount, and now all of a sudden it's not just that, but it's that your buying power's been decreased by another 12,000, whatever. Right? So at 500,000, you've now lost. You're down to under 300 and something thousand. And he said, wait a minute. So there was let's say there's a $10,000 loss in New York. Well, that he said, hey, wait a minute. I can go to a smaller town in Florida if I can take my business down there, and they got no taxes. So on top of that, I'm going to gain. Not only am I not going to pay the $10,000, I'm going to gain the other 50, 60, 70,000. That's in my New York and city state tax, and I'm going to go to Florida. And so I'm going to, if you add the 10,000 onto everything else, I've now got enough to buy a new home down in Florida. Right? I'm going to make another 50, $60,000 by taking my business down there. If I work online, or if I go down there, then I'm going to make that much more money. And outside of Miami, everything else is more affordable. So not only that, you've got more buying power. You can buy a bigger house, or guess what? You can take similar for less money. So you're going to have even more money. So there's so many incentives to move out of New York. Think about it. And that's the first domino that's going to fall, because there's a lot of people that are they're talking, families are at home, and I'm glad we don't have to have this conversation yet, because I think on the next election here in 20, we got, I don't know, Cincinnati's mayor in 26, but um, we're probably going to have this same conversation next year. And it says, wait a minute, now we've got some Muslim candidates, and maybe they haven't had time to do all the damage that you're afraid of yet, you know. But you have to just think about this: is you haven't heard of the people leaving yet. I know Kevin O'Leary gets on the business shows, and he talks about um, you know the canning cans of doing business in New York, right? He talks about that, and it's they're all sitting there waiting. They haven't done anything yet, but they're waiting. But I guarantee that they're already looking at property somewhere else. They're like, hey, it didn't happen this time, but, you know, is it going to happen next time? And do we want to be stuck in the middle in between? And they're going to say, no, we don't want that. We don't want to be stuck in between. Let's go now. So you're going to see this coming up here. Um, I would like to see on Wednesday how many businesses signal that they're selling off or they're moving. I'm telling you right now, yeah, you're gonna. I mean, it ain't gonna be like 5,000 businesses closing down on Wednesday, but it's going to be. It's gonna happen. There's gonna be a couple businesses that are gonna say, "Hey, we've been waiting, and we're like, hey, we're leaving." And the community, if you don't have kids, then it's easier. If you got kids, you're like, we don't want to move in the middle of the school year. We want to wait till the springtime. Well, there's going to be a lot of changes happening in between, let me tell you. So the people who do not have kids are going to start being, if you start seeing what do you call them, the dinks, dual income, no kids, things like that, they're going to be like, hey, they're going to be the first ones to put that house up for sale. And I had a stat up, and I think it said in New York City there's 56,000 homes for sale, and I think that community, condos, all that stuff, right? Um, and it shows this. It's a slight uptick from, I think that the data was showing September. We didn't say prices, none of that stuff, but I guarantee that October people have already, there's some people already putting their house up on the market, because it's roughly a 60-day market in New York. It's taken 60 days to get stuff sold. So how's that gonna handle when you have this now? All of a sudden, you're gonna start seeing uh, people going, okay, now wait a minute. We don't have any obligations here. Our kids are grown, or we don't have kids, or they're not, they're not that old. They're going to be putting that stuff up for sale. Let me tell you that those that actually pay attention and have fear in their hearts, they're going to they're going to do this. Now, what does all this have to do with Christianity? Um, right now, a little, just a little. Just that little bit right there. It's got only just a little to do with Christianity. But all of a sudden, just like Dearborn, you're going to start seeing that have a lot to do with Christianity. I mean, it's just it has a whole lot to do with Christianity right now. It's just you don't know it yet. You don't know it yet. And Memdami, if you listen, his mother said the other day, he's not. I don't like America. Your son is running for mayor, and you're the mother, and you're saying you don't like America. Wow, wow, people, wow. I mean, this is a rough one. This is a rough one, folks. This is an absolute rough one that I can't get behind. I can't get behind this. I'm very sorry. Um, and so, you got to think about it, guys. You got to think about this. Um, I'm really sad for the people in New York. Um, and there's more to come. Don't be, don't, at this moment, when you look at the city of New York and, you know, you've been laughing. Oh, it's New York. It's over there. That's their fault. They should have made some changes earlier. They should have done this and whatever. Um, you heard that coming to a city near you. That's gonna be the sign out there outside of New York, coming to a city near you. You're gonna be seeing this, folks. Let me tell you something. This is um, I'm going to say this, okay? So in the Bible, um, there's the when Jesus says, "Hey, I'm gonna come back and I'm gonna rapture the church out." Okay, so yeah, you have you have some organizations that don't really believe in the rapture, that everybody's going through the tribulation period and everything else. Because let me tell you something. This right here is the big is I don't there's a 7-year tribulation period coming, and I don't have you say, oh, when's it starting, and what's the date of the start of it? I don't know. I mean, I don't those things were not given, okay? Um but it says that, hey, you know, uh, Jesus said, I'm coming to take my bride, okay? And the church is the bride. And as a rushing wind, just that's it. And when you when you see this happen, then it's, oh. But the Bible does not say, let's say this. The Bible says that, look to the heavens, right? You're gonna you're gonna know the season that I'm coming. Look to the heavens for the signs, and you know, because your Savior's near. This coming is near, and but it doesn't say. And I think this is one of the things that you can set in Christianity and be oblivious to certain things. You can be so oblivious to certain things in the Bible. You can live and then and you can't, not everybody's a master of everything, okay? And so there's to tell you all this Bible prophecy, and no, that's not me. But what I can say with 100% confidence of my life is that the aftermath of the rapture, right, is being set in stone right now. Okay, so the Bible doesn't say that these things will only take place after I have taken my church out, because he's taking his presence out, right? That's the uh, if you believe, then the believe is that, these bad things, God is not just going to outright torture all of his Christian followers, just because. Okay, that's not what he said. He's coming back to take his church with him, and but he doesn't say. I want to say this right. So I want to pause for a second. So what he doesn't say is that nothing's going to be set up for the after before he comes. So he didn't say that, hey guys, look, um, basically, look at it like a layoff, right? Um, the there's a buyout coming, and there's going to be layoffs, okay? And so the buyout comes, there's a buyout coming. So the buyout comes, but before that, people start going, "Oh, I know this. I know what's coming," and they're already looking for jobs. They're already looking to leave. They're like, "Yeah, give me that. Yeah, I want to get that package because I've already got a. This guy's giving me time. He wants to help me out or whatever." Or they just jump ship, okay? Because there'll be rumors saying, "Hey, it looks like." When major companies merge, accounting, all the bookkeeping stuff, that's usually one of the first things to get cut. Upper senior management, and then all these vice presidents, they all, okay, these things are coming. Okay, they're coming, and then there's the announcement of the buyout or the merger, whichever it is. And so the Bible doesn't say that you're the people who will be the leaders of your countries are going to just swoop in and take you over, right? And it doesn't say that they're not going to it doesn't say any of those things to say, oh yeah, here's on March 1st, there's going to be more cities. It doesn't say, but when you start looking in at this, that picture starts getting clear. This picture starts coming clear of, wait a minute, Mandami wins, and then he takes his chief of police, he takes the fire chief and all these stuff, and he starts making them Muslim, and he goes, you know what, that's that rich white neighborhood, let's not go there so fast. you know Things start getting slowed down, and, oh wait a minute, hey, these are our people, let's get over there and take care of them, because they're going to vote us more, right? Those are the things then your police force, those policemen start leaving one by one. They're like, I'm done, I'm retired, I can take my pension and leave, or I'll go somewhere else in New York and find um, that is the start, okay? And it's already the underling underlying, whatever you want to call it, has the groundwork has been laying in Texas, it's been laying in Minnesota, and now you're starting to see, it's been in Michigan, and now you're going to see it in New York. And I'm telling you, this is the foretelling of the rapture, guys. This is the foretelling. This is, I'm telling you, um, and if you want to understand, because here's what I want to tell you, and this is why I when things when these pictures come in to my head, and I sit there and I'm like, how does this? It makes sense because Muslims have, the Muslims, Islam has already said we want to take over your country. We want to take over you. We don't like you. We want to destroy you. Okay, I mean, how much more warning do you need, right? But if you stop and say, in a moment, if the rapture comes and takes us away, then those will be left behind will be people who didn't believe in God or didn't fully believe. They didn't commit, right? And so you sit here and you say, well, these people, if your belief is that Allah is the God, and that's just not true, then they're not going to care. They're not going to care. They're just going to be like, hey, well, guess what? Now we take over, right? Then it's going to usher in God. Jesus is coming back on the wind, right? Come back in a cloud on the wind, and um, poof, they're gone. Twinkling of an eye. You're going to see people just gone. You won't understand until you do understand. And when you turn around and all of a sudden you take out that percentage, let's say of Americans, you take out the percentage that's Christian and they get taken away in the rapture, then all of a sudden the percentage of the population that is now left to deal with the aftermath, and you've lost your leadership. You've lost your leadership, okay? Because you can say whatever you want about Christianity, okay? Um, you can hate it, you can all these things, you can say what you want, but I'm going to tell you this: when bad things happen, the first thing out people's mouth is, "Oh, pray for us." Well, who do you pray to? Well, pray to God. Well, if you pray to God, did you ever? But you don't believe in Him. Oh yeah, I believe in God. I pray God's got to help us now. Well, you never gave any. Forget tithing. You never even gave of yourself. You never went to church. Listen to your music. Look at your clothes. Look at your lifestyle. Look at your kids. Look at everything you've got, and it's all about just whatever it is you want it to be. There's nothing to do with God, and they all look to spiritual leaders in times of crisis. They all here they come, and all of a sudden you're not going to have it. Those Christian leaders will be, and I don't know, I don't know what will be the most devastating part of this. You know, there's so many things to, if you talk about the rapture, there's so many devastating parts to that, to the aftermath. But the one is the fact that you're now not going to have your representation, and then you're going to look around and you're not going to have spiritual representation, because first of all you're going to be mad that you're going to look at some of these pastors like Copeland, and he's going to be looking at you like, well, you knew better than to listen to me. you know who you he if he led you astray beforehand, definitely not looking to him afterwards, right? So what have you got? And then you have people that let me tell you something. The guns are going to come out. Let me tell you something. The knives, they're going to come out faster than you ever thought. And Tiff Shuttleworth, I think he says it best, is that, you know, the lawlessness will prevail and will turn on Israel. I gotta be honest with you. You ought to have an Israel gauge, and you know that right now our country's support for Israel. I don't know where it stands. You say, oh, it's on the we support. I don't know, mid strongs, whatever it is. It's enough that I think we can say as a country we still support Israel. But as we get up to the rapture, that's it's going to start falling. I don't understand how those days haven't come yet. But let me tell you something: when there's no support for Israel in this country, I don't want to live here. Okay, I don't want to be in this country if it does not support Israel, because there's so many bad things coming. So, guys, sorry I've been at this for an hour, but I'm going to have a series of these coming up. And I hope you'll join me. I hope you're going to find a church. I'm doing this Sunday morning. I've got to go get my kids ready, get myself ready. So, like and subscribe. I hope you, um, um, it's hard to have all the Bible quotes and make everything, as dress right dress as I would like. Um, and in the end, my ultimate goal is that you stop and say, wait a minute, I don't believe you. I don't believe you. Let me sit down and look up all of these things I'm talking. Go look them up. Go look them up online. I mean, this is not. Let's just say that everything I'm telling you is not hidden in a Bible verse that you are going to maybe ponder and the rapture. Okay, but the rapture is all very. It says you don't need to know nothing else but that God's going to come back and God's taking his people out. He's taking his people out. Do you want to be part of that, or do you want to be left in the hell on earth that's coming? That's that's yes or no. Okay, and if it's yes, well, what do I need to do? Well, first of all, you need to find you a good truth speaking church. Okay, you need to find you a good truth speaking church. You need to ask questions of that pastor. You need to dig. Get your shovel and dig on that pastor. Dig on the staff and look and see what the church talks. Um, and make sure you're going down the right path. That's and you need to sit down and address your life. What am I doing wrong? What do I need to walk away from? You got to do these things. You got to do these things. Um, I pray everybody that hears me, they say, you know what, I did not think, you know, that we're this late in this. Let me tell you something. Mm, I can't predict, but my by my uneducated mind, maybe 2 years, maybe 2 years. And I'm gonna say this: it ain't gonna be the. I mean, I just don't think it's when you hear that the rapture is. If you had a thing that said the rapture is taking place, God put it on your wall, and it was true, and you sat there and watched it, how stupid would you feel? But would you sit there and go, "Yep, I can see these things happening." If that, and so oh, you're saying I've got 2 years. I don't know. I mean, I'm looking at max. I mean, I just don't see it. I mean, I'm telling you, people. Um, and I can be. It can be 5, 10, 20 years. I don't know, but I just don't see it. Because there's so many things that are going to gain momentum here real soon. You don't want this, folks. Let me tell you, you don't want this. And I will tell you, I am doing these videos because of the vision. I ain't gonna say a vision. It's just the the clarity that came to me one night. Let's just say that. And I didn't see Jesus. Jesus didn't come down. Angels didn't come down and say you're gonna wrestle with me. And none of that stuff. And it's not that I saw the actual people, but everything lined up for me. And do you want to be do you want to be the guy that's are you going to stand there before God and he's going to say, "Hey, Carrie, look, I showed you what was going to happen to the people after. I showed you, and it's just some of it. I don't, it's not everything, just there's just this little, let's say a 15-second video. Let's just say that I got a short reel of just life in America after. Okay, and are you gonna are you gonna stand there before God and Abba, 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 Abba? I showed you the future, Carrie, and you still sat still. You did nothing. You did nothing. You didn't talk to your neighbor. You didn't talk to You didn't even talk to a stranger. Where well, we all get fear of talking to neighbors. Oh man, that's my neighbor. They're gonna think I'm weird, and um, so we go talk to a stranger if that because if we all talk to somebody else's neighbor that we don't know, it wouldn't be bad. So do that because when you say you go to church and everything, how many people are you working on trying to get them to come to church? How many people are you working on? One person? Two? I mean, Bible doesn't say you got to get them to church. Bible says you got to talk to them about it. You got to, hey, man, have you thought of going to church, man? This is, and just fumble through it. Screw it up. Just screw it up as bad as you can. But somebody knows when you're earnest. People can tell you they're in earnestness. They can tell you, they can look at you and listen to you for a second and go, I'm not buying that. You know, they know that you're like, look, man, this world is short. It's short to end. Don't please go to church. Find here's some churches I know. Are you going to be stuck fumbling your words before God? Is that what you want? So when I'm doing this, I'm telling myself that and I'm just in this really weird position for the time being. I don't make no money on YouTube. Let me tell you something. I'm flailing, buddy. I'm that fish out of water, just flipping back and forth, going, you know, getting ready to die. Because I'm not making money. Let me tell you something. But in this time that I have right here, I've got to do something to show my worth to God. I've got to do something that says, yes, Carrie, you you talk to this guy, you talk to this guy, and you're out here begging people to come to church. You're out here, because how many people are going to see my video? I don't know. I don't really know. Don't know anything. But God, I pray that you'll touch what I'm doing. That somebody's going to hear this and they're going to say, hey, what kind of church do I need? You know, um, there's so many things I feel that's wrong with our churches, and I can't fix everything, but I can only fix one thing at a time. And so if I can get anybody out hearing my voice to say, you know what, it's too late today to go to church, but I'm gonna go next Sunday. I'm gonna put that down on my list. I'm going next Sunday. Then I have done something, because let me tell you, I know people. They talk to people for years and years and years, and I don't want you to miss this morning, but I want you to get out and get to church. So guys, I got to get off here and get myself to church this morning. So God bless you, and um, just anything I say, just look it up. Just look. You can go on the internet, search whatever. Just look it up. You don't have to take my word for anything. And that means in the Bible. Go read the Bible, right? And then sometimes something may not come out the right way, but all I can tell you is Acts 2:38. You have to follow Acts 2:38, and you have to serve God. If you don't get if you don't repent, and all that to where you're a Christian and you should magically die at that moment, you know, and God says, well, you got in on your last breath. Um, then when you walk out that door, you have to start living for Christ. And there's a difference. Being saved is one thing, but living for Christ is different. So you have to start showing people you're a Christian. You have to, you know, you have to do some works for God. You know, it's just like anything. You want that girl to date you? Well, you need to get a car. You need to get a job. You know, get that haircut, trim that beard. You know, being a Christian is the same thing, guys. Being a Christian is the same thing. And I'm gonna tell you, if that rapture is true, and I absolutely believe it, you don't want to be left behind. And if your pastor isn't talking about the rapture, I hate to tell you, you know, if you want to stand up and say, "What about this rapture thing?" and he goes, you know, we're all going to heaven anyway. No, you're not. No, you need to leave. You need to leave. You know, go find you a good truth speaking pastor. And you know, I don't know all of them. I know some people in different states that have good churches. I have friends, but so I'll do whatever I can to help you find a local church near you. Um, so whatever. So here, my goodbye has been 15 minutes. I'm sorry for rambling, guys. Um, it's just important. It's just important. It is so important. Anyway, guys, it's Sunday morning. This is October, November 2nd, October. You know, next thing you know, it's going to be Christmas. So, guys, thank you and have a wonderful day. God bless you.